In today's episode of my podcast story, we have Paul H. Flowers Jr., the dynamic host of the Potpourri Place podcast, known for his engaging discussions that blend leadership, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Paul brings over 2 decades of experience in training and team development to the table. As the founder of Superior Insurance Advisors and Life Health and Legal Education Partners, he has dedicated his career to bridging the gaps in financial and healthcare literacy for everyday families. What makes Paul's podcasting journey truly unique is his commitment to empowering others through education and storytelling, all while balancing the roles of husband and father. He's here to share his inspiring journey on how he built his show from the ground up and how he's using his platform to ignite change and inspire action in the world. Tell us your name and what the name of your podcast is and what it's about.
All right. Hello, listeners of the My Podcast Story podcast. My name is Paul Howard Flowers Jr., and the name of my podcast is the Potpourri Place Podcast Show. The Potpourri Place Podcast Show came out as a result of essentially a pet project at first, something that I've wanted to do for a while. And with that, I finally said, let's do it, right? Let's do it. So on the Potpourri Place Podcast Show, we'll have different segments. The Everyday Entrepreneur is there to highlight entrepreneurs from around the country who are maybe just getting started or very well seasoned. And the hope of that segment is to give just that hope so that other entrepreneurs can see people like themselves, people that they want to be like, and know that it's possible for them too. The other segment is the C-Suite Connection. So the C-Suite Connection is there to have conversations with CEOs, CFOs, and CHROs. That's going to be for primarily those with 50 or more employees. That segment is geared to individuals who will be entering the C-suite or who want to enter the C-suite and need to understand that there are going to be some challenges that they'll need to understand that they exist. So it'll allow for them to kind of take a peek behind the curtain before actually taking on the full responsibilities. Another segment there is Marriage Life Unfiltered. That is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to be having conversations in and around marriage without the filter, so it's not going to be all pretty and marriage is great and things are wonderful, but instead really getting into the nitty-gritty of what it is to have and sustain or not a marriage in today's society. Author's Alley is a segment that'll be launching in June. That is for people who have authored books, where I will actually bring them on only after I've read the book, or at least a really, really good chunk of it, namely so that I can ask really pointed questions and pull out things that a typical glance through a book or the read of an executive summary wouldn't tell, right? Getting it straight from the author's mouth. And last but not least, parenting. So there will be a segment on parenting where we uncover things, conversations to and for and about children, specifically challenges that come up with parenting, and really just a safe space for those that are into and interested in having children to come and understand some of the things that they'll ultimately need to know. So it's about 5 segments within the Potpourri Place podcast show, and that's exactly why it's called the Potpourri Place podcast show, because of course potpourri is a blend of dried flowers. And yes, it is a play on my last name being Flowers, but it's also because we're more than just what you see. We're more than just the business owner. We're more than just the podcaster. We're more than just the married person as the title husband or wife or whatever your title is these days. Like, we're more than just that. We're a lot of things. So I wanted to make sure that my podcast addressed that in a way that was suitable for all ears.
How old is the podcast now?
At the time of this recording, my friend, the podcast is actually 3 weeks old. Thank you so much. We hit 25 countries and 150 cities. Just about to hit 500 downloads, on the way to 1,000, I believe, within the next couple of weeks.
Wow.
And it was really refreshing to realize that something can start from an idea and come to fruition really, really quickly, and also have a tremendous amount of success, where from that podcast already I've been guests on several others, and it's really starting to pick up momentum. I've gotten connected with some individuals who I would have never known. And I'm really, really excited to see how these relationships flourish.
Yeah. Is the podcast audio only or audio and video?
We are absolutely doing both, my friend. I want people to see the smiles on our faces,
Yeah.
as well as hear our voices. So what I'll do is record them and I'm a Zoom guy, right? For right now, Zoom is simple. Most people have it and know how to use it. So I use Zoom to record the audio and video. And from there, send it on over to CapCut, do a little bit of editing, and then we get it to YouTube first, just so that there's a platform for people to see and hear. From there, I also use Buzzsprout, and with Buzzsprout, it gets out to 15 or so other audio platforms. So your Apple Music, your Spotify, your Podchaser, Amazon, all these places, they're available, right? It's available for people to also listen to in a just audio fashion.
Well, I want to step. Well, okay. If I would have said step back, but the podcast is about 3 weeks old. What was like the genuine, when you say deep layer of why you started the podcast?
Well, full transparency, I work in the insurance space. And with that, I wanted to have a place where I could extend my voice to listeners, albeit my business is practiced here only in the United States, but also having that larger audience leads to followers of the things that I can produce and share globally. And with that, I wanted to make sure I had a platform that also helped to bring authority and thought leadership to the things that I would share. Podcasting was the perfect way to do that. It also turns into a great way to produce, I won't say unlimited, but a significant amount of content to add to social media from just one episode, really. Impactful episodes, thoughtful episodes I've had and produced anywhere from 20 to 30 video clips, another 10, 15 one-liners, and that's not even including taking those and putting them in regular chat text form, adding images to them, things like that, making the YouTube shorts. I mean, the possibilities are truly endless when it comes to creating content from a podcast. So I wanted to make sure that I had a way to consistently put myself out there where honestly, I had a little bit of trouble for a period of my life doing that. Recently married, new father again, and though previously, I'll call it in a former life, 10 years prior, I've been very outspoken with my quotes and positivity online. You can go back into the early 2010s, somewhere around that age, 15 years or so ago, and you can see quotes, 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 quotes. And typically they would be original. Sometimes they would be quote cards from other people. But I was consistently posting positivity to the people around me. And I'd gotten to a point for, again, a reason that I'm sure I'll unlock in therapy one of these days, that that I was just quiet, more quiet than usual. So this podcast is also the resurgence, kind of like a phoenix growing out of the ashes of who I am and who I know myself to be, not just for myself, but also for, again, the people that stories like this will actually reach, so that they can know the things that are inside of them have a place to live and they shouldn't be afraid to let them out.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing why you started the podcast. The podcast is about 3 weeks old now. What would you say? You quickly walked us through the workflow of your podcast, of how you use it, and what would you say you've spent in total for the podcast for 3 weeks?
Man, so this is only because I wanted to reach a wider audience as both a guest and a host. And also, instead of the traditional, for some, that just put podcasts out weekly or bi-week or semi-weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, I said, I'm going to put them out as often as I possibly can. So I spent a little bit more to do that. All in all, honestly, Wisdom landed costs, aside from things like internet, right? The microphone I already had. So I don't know if you want me to include that. So I'll do it with and without.
Okay, I'm talking about the things you had to like spend. Like I'll give an example: the apps, the softwares, the editing. Especially, I know that one takes a lot of time, so it takes a lot of effort. The hosting, you mentioned Buzzsprout, right? Those things for the podcast, and yeah, so that's
Yep.
what I'm talking
So all in, have an $18 a month subscription to Buzzsprout,
about. Okay.
which allows me to put a certain number of episodes up each month, which I think I'm going to have to up that pretty soon. There is a Initially, it was just a $6 subscription to Podmatch. But again, I wanted to also be a host, a guest, and that bumped it up to 64. I currently use the free version of CapCut in order to do my editing. The Canva subscription I use for my thumbnails is a free subscription to Canva. All in, I mean, I might be at $82 a month, but that again is because I'm a host and a guest using Podmatch, which also pays me. So it actually reduces that cost overall. But realistically, I think without that guest profile on Podmatch, I'd be at like $25 a month, if that, to start and get the podcast out there using Buzzsprout and again be in all these countries in just a few weeks.
I mean, guesting on all these other podcasts is a way to market and also talk about your podcast, which also helps in marketing the podcast and growing the podcast. So it can't stop for the podcast too. So it's podcast expenses and podcast marketing.
This is true. You're absolutely right. Right. So we'll put it at $80.
Okay. You edit the videos yourself?
Yes, actually, I've got a pretty decent external camera, so I don't have to do anything with the video quality. And then I use a software. You know what? I didn't add this cost in because I already purchased it, and I purchased it for the year when I purchased it, but it's a service called QSO, QUSO, QSO AI. And one of the main reasons why I go to YouTube first is because from that YouTube link, I can take that and put it into QSO AI, and it actually creates all the shorts and clips and reels and all that for me. Auto adjusts them for the correct size depending on the platform that I post them to, and then it handles the scheduling also of each of the clips that I'll post, adds the captions, all that stuff. So I think for the year for QSO AI, I may have paid like, it was one of those Black Friday sales. So I think I paid about $240. So that's about $20 a month. If you want to average that out over the year. So that still keeps me right about the $100 mark as far as production. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that was definitely a podcast related expense. But I just took it on a few months before I actually started the podcast.
You did mention you Podmatch, you get paid for Podmatch. So the question is, have you gotten paid from Podmatch?
Yeah, so I just started using Podmatch again at the same time that I started the podcast, 3-ish weeks. I've already gotten connected with the founder and am looking at being a guest on his podcast, which is, I can't even tell you what that'll do for my business. He is what's called a Podmatch Elite member. So apparently the commissions are higher when you interview certain people, which I'm finding out again more and more about how those dollars work. But when I checked my commission statement on there, it was $33 and some change within just, again, the first few weeks. I know that $6 of that was from a person joining using my referral link for Podmatch. And then the other $29 or so were all from various episodes with people that I'd interviewed. So one person was $16, another was $1 and some change, and two of them were $5 and some change. And again, this is just, to me, it's incredible because it hasn't even been 3 weeks and I'm already generating revenue from my podcast.
Yeah.
Currently working on getting to that $1,000 download mark so that my podcast can be monetized, because apparently through Buzzsprout, it can be monetized. So once I hit 1,000 downloads, which again is right around the corner, I'll be able to monetize that podcast and bring in revenue from Buzzsprout as well. So all of this is starting to come about, and I didn't realize that it can, quite frankly, be pretty lucrative and ultimately pay for itself. I'm headed towards that 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube as well, which, as you know, is when the monetization starts on YouTube. So it's like 1,000 is that magical number, 1,000 subscribers, 1,000 downloads, and people start paying you thousands of dollars. So I'm truly looking forward to again, hitting those marks pretty quickly and turning this not into just a cool side project, but a reliable and sustainable revenue stream that brings leads to my businesses as well as exposure for them as well.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that about Podma. I mean, that's the
Absolutely.
platform we connected on.
That's
Platform is
it.
pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
I like the way. So far in 3 weeks now, how many episodes have you released?
I have released 11 episodes and I've actually been slow. And again, we're here to talk, so I'm just going to be transparent. This last week, I've been a little slow on my releases as I've been listening to my episodes in order to give constructive feedback to myself. And I know that's a really unique thing, but again, until the podcast generates more revenue to hire someone to professionally look at, listen to, edit, things like that, I said, well, I'll listen to it and I'll listen to it with a more constructive ear so that I can get a good feel for how things are happening there. And with that, I'll have let's see, 50, well, I've got about 7, 8 recorded that I've not yet released, but I've already released the full first season of the Potpourri Plays podcast show, which is 11 episodes. So there's my intro episode, and I've had 10 guests already. As we say, signed, sealed, delivered. I've recorded all 10 of them. All 10 of them have the show notes and, everything was created. Another cost that I, again, already had was ChatGPT. So that might be.
Hey, just a quick break. If you enjoying the insights so far and want even more behind the scenes ideas, inspiration, and tools for growing your own podcast, join my email list at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. You get access to helpful resources, exclusive updates, and the kind of stuff I only share with my email subscribers. Whether you're starting out or already podcasting, there's something valuable waiting for you. Head over to mypodcaststory.com/join and subscribe. Now, back to the episode.
Yep. So again, currently to date, I've released 11 episodes, which as I'm growing this podcast, I'm also learning and figuring out how I want to have this podcast appear to the general public. With that, the first 11 episodes was an intro. So there's that first introduction so I can share with listeners what it's going to be about in just a few minutes instead of 40 minutes. It was like 7 minutes long. And from there, I've had 10 guests, and all 10 I've used, again, the tools that I shared, Canva, CapCut, ChatGPT also for show notes and things like that. And it's been able to create and put those episodes out relatively quickly. I got my post-production time down realistically per episode to 20 minutes tops, and I can have it fully edited, downloaded, and then re-uploaded to YouTube again in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes if I'm just working a little slow. But really, that's been about it. So I've got another at least 6 or 7 episodes that I've already recorded, and I've not released them yet as a matter of going to do them all basically in batches. So I'm looking at this as my second season. I'll have another 10 episodes in this second season. And prior to releasing those, I'm going to record my recap of season 1 and a bonus episode of season 1, as I realized that, again, this platform is something that I can use to not only get my word out, but also promote things that I'm also interested in, which are courses. Created a course that I'll be basically doing an entire bonus episode to go through the steps and skills that are learned within that course.
Yeah.
Then the trailer for season 2, an intro episode for season 2. And then by that time, all of the 10 guests will have been recorded. I'll do my same spiel on each one and get those all uploaded. Again, my goal date is the 13th. So basically by this time next week, I'll have season 2 and possibly season 3 already done and complete.
Well, that's brilliant. Do you have like a dashboard you use for managing your podcast? Maybe like a Notion, Asana, ClickUp, any of those stuff, or it's just happening in the head?
I've not yet put them in a dashboard, and for somebody with I'll call it a vague background in project management, thanks for calling me out.
I'm just like, how do you manage and keep track of everything? Because a lot of sooner or later things will start changing. Little pieces will start come into play. And I don't know. For me, it's not really, you don't necessarily have to use the fancy software. You just have to like have something you use that helps you keep tab on everything.
Gotcha. Well, to that point, actually, Podmatch is very useful
Yeah.
in that regard. It keeps all of the guests that I've interviewed in one place. Now, to your point, using another type of software method is helpful. And the reason being is because as I think about that, there are people that I've connected with that aren't on Podmatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, so I think episode 1, 2, 3, 4. So episodes 4 and 5 of my podcast were founders of companies that I'd met either through LinkedIn or through a 1 million cups event. 1 million cups is a event where it happens twice a month and entrepreneurs get up there and basically give a pitch in front of a room of other entrepreneurs so that they can provide feedback to them, and basically like a sharpening the saw sort
Yeah.
of session. I've met people and I've interviewed them and released those episodes, and they're not on Podmatch. So to your point, and again, it's a growing understanding of what's needed in order to really make a podcast journey for anyone successful, and so that they don't burn out or fizzle
Yeah.
out. But I've currently just been using the file folders. What happens when I bring an episode off of Zoom is that it automatically creates a new folder for that particular episode. I have a separate folder on my desktop that's just podcast recordings. So I create a folder inside of each one of those with the episode and the person's name, so I know who and what it is. From there, when I go to Canva and create the thumbnail for YouTube, I use the same thumbnail. I literally just change the name of the guest and the picture of the guest, which is why I can do it in like 2 minutes. I then change the name of the thumbnail so that when I export it, it has their name. I automatically take that from my downloads folder. I put that into their folder. When I have the recording from Zoom, I take that from the Zoom folder and I put it in their specific folder. And that comes, well, you know what? Let me take that back. I don't take the Zoom recording and put it in their folder. I go from Zoom to CapCut. And once I add the intro and outro and transitions from CapCut, that's when I take that export and put it into their specific folder. So the workflow is relatively simple, and I've been documenting that process so that ultimately, as I do grow, I can hand that off to someone else and they'll know exactly how to do it. I will need to set up one other piece for that to happen, which is something like a Dropbox, or maybe just using Google Drive, so that as I create the episode, I can drop it in that folder. And once I drop it in
Yeah.
that folder,
Yeah.
another person can then
I
take
could
on
make
everything from
I
there.
could make a suggestion though, right?
Please, please.
I don't use Zoom, so I'm not really conversant with Zoom, but doesn't Zoom have a feature where you can invite a member or add someone as a member to your Zoom so that they can get access to a particular studio or recording, such that when you hire someone to be an editor, because that for me is extra time. You're hiring someone to save you time. Now you have to go download and upload to Dropbox or Google Drive. That's time. So
That's extra
you could
time.
actually, once you do the recording, they know, once you've trained them and they know the things they need to do, you do the recording, they see the stuff, they take the file and then edit with whatever software they want to edit. And then they depend on your workflow. Then if it depends on how you want to do it, if you want to like give them a, think there's a type of access you can give someone on your YouTube, like a manager access, right? Where they can only upload videos on your YouTube. They can't, they said they have, you can control the permissions you give them, what they can do on your channel, right? And they can upload videos and they can, put the title, the description on that, but they cannot delete videos, but they can only upload videos, stuff like that. So that, because that for me is time, like uploading, doing other stuff and other things. And then, yeah, these are things that people can do, like with AI and with a couple of training, they can fine tune and get everything right for you.
You're absolutely right. And thank you for that again. It
Yeah,
is a learning experience, and I'm growing
yeah,
through this, going through all the I'll call it light bumps and bruises. They're
yeah,
not heavy, but there definitely are
yeah,
some bumps along the way.
yeah. I mean, the thing is about it takes a lot of time, but thank God for the AI tools that saves a lot of time, right? And then I don't know if you noticed it. YouTube have a feature where you can put default upload. That is, you can set a particular. Let's say you have a business, so you might want to be adding stuff about your business, your website, links, call to action,
Mhm.
things you do, or maybe a disclaimer if maybe you do financial stuff that, oh, this is not financial advice, consult, depending on the things you do, or maybe affiliate links of tools you use, that irrespective of the kind of episode, it will always be on those episodes, right? Or maybe links for people to support you via Buy Me a Coffee. Instead of having to copy and paste that onto every episode, you can actually set it such that what will happen is that it will auto populate every time you want to upload a new video. It will just be there. You just see it there. You won't have to copy and paste. And that's like a
Yeah.
couple of things you could do. For me right now,
Right.
the thing I've noticed that a lot of people struggle and I'm struggling with is the editing itself. It takes a lot of time.
You know, and that's where I have a little bit of time at the beginning of the recording. So before we ever hit record in Zoom, we have what I call green room time. I make sure that there are no off topic or off limits topics for the individuals. And as long as we can talk about anything, there's really nothing that I have to take out.
Okay.
When it comes to conversational podcasts like the one that I host, it is just that, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
So there are ways that I can take out some of the filler words that might get used, some of the dead space or
Yeah.
air that might get used. And I saw that there's a feature in CapCut. I'm not sure if it's the pro version or not, because I did have a trial of the pro version at some point, but
Yeah.
there's a feature where you can edit it by the
My
transcript.
text, yeah.
And yeah, and that allows you to be able to go through and take out those extra spaces. But quite frankly, I'm not at that point yet where
Oh,
I need it to be, 120% pristine. And the reason also for that, or not necessarily the reason, I don't necessarily like to use that word, but the thought behind that is perfection is the enemy of progress. Perfection is the enemy of progress. And I'll just tell you my own story with that. I wanted to make sure that I was going to get everything right before I ever launched the podcast. And that's why for well over a year, look, I've moved twice and I've had this little sticky note here. And for the folks that might get a chance to look at this, it's literally a little index card that
yeah,
says
podcast.
Buzzsprout, Podmatch, StreamYard,
Okay.
right on there. So this has been the goal for me for, about a year or so, but it's just been sitting there because, the timing wasn't right and all those other excuses that I gave myself. So yeah, look, I'll say don't let perfection be the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
Get it out there. And as you get it out there, you'll learn what you need to do to get it, quote unquote, perfect. And just like you shared some softwares with me and shortcuts with me today, I'll be able to turn around and use those tomorrow to even better produce the podcast for the listeners, both audio and visual, as well as save more time myself. So I'm grateful for having taken the time to be on this podcast to
Yeah,
even
my
learn those
pleasure.
things from you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, an episode I released recently on one of my other podcasts is I said waiting for permission to create. And
Mm-hmm.
the funny thing about podcasting and creating content is that if you're writing a book, right, you'd go through iterations of up to like 7, 8 drafts before you get the final draft. But that stuff will be done in private, right? It's only the final draft you
Mm-hmm.
publish to the world. But with a podcast, you are actually doing the first, second, third, fourth, fifth draft in public. And so a lot of persons, they want to approach it like a book, like, oh, when I get the final draft, I'll publish. And I'm like, no, you do the
Exactly.
first draft, the second draft, and then finally you then get the final draft and say, okay, yeah, this is my podcast. When we go there, we're hearing sound effects, like everything is going well, it's flowing well and all that. And
Exactly.
they're like, wow, this stuff is awesome. Yeah, but in order to get there, we have to do the 8, 9 draft. And then we have to do it in public. Yeah, that's the way it works. And once you have that like approach and mindset, you just realize that, okay, the first 11 episodes I did, that was my first draft. Okay, these are a couple of things I've learned. These are some improvements I've made. Because there's so many things you test, right? I could tell you that you should use this software. And then you realize that after using software, this one doesn't work for me. This is the software that works for me based on my specific needs, because there's so many factors that come into choosing the software and what to use and
Right.
what not to use, right? Something I would recommend that you do is, I don't know if you're using it because you mentioned something about QSO, which you use for repurposing the video into shorts, clips, and all that, right? And
Correct.
does it
Yes.
repurpose the video into show notes, quotes, and
Yep.
all those other things too?
Yeah, it does so I can do the video version, and then also it will take the audio, transcribe it, create show notes. It can put it into chapters, and then it pulls what it calls the most powerful moments from the videos.
Yeah.
So I guess much like that AI feature is able to take certain segments of the conversation and figure out what we're talking about and chop up the video for that specific portion of the video, it does the same thing for the audio and turns that into written form quotes that can be used as, again, one-liners through various social media platforms.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that because I'm not conversant with the tool, you can kind of customize the prompts to the things it generates.
From the main menu, it gives you the ability to either put it into the writing tab, right? So I can give it and it's not that I'm giving it the instruction. I believe these are even pre-programmed in there. So I'm going to do a little bit more digging to see how customizable it is. But for all intents and purposes, I just use it right out of the box. From there, I again upload that YouTube link and it gives me a couple of options. It says, hey, do you want to do a video and make videos from this, or do you want to do an audio? Let me see. I've got it up on my other screen here.
Okay.
I can generate AI captions, generate written content from your
I
videos.
don't know if there is anything private on the platform, but
No,
I would have loved
no.
for you to like do a screen share, so those that are on
Oh,
YouTube they can follow along.
absolutely.
Yeah, and then
Here, let's go
just
ahead.
a quick heads up, I would also love for you to like pull up your YouTube channel so we can also see. And those that are interested, please go subscribe to his show.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Absolutely. Let's do it. So I'm going to share screen. And let's see, I've got a couple of screens here. So we're going to share entire screen. And this is screen number 1. All right, share. Okay, so
okay,
you can
wow,
now see my space on QSO.
yeah, I know this
Yeah,
platform. Yeah,
yeah. When I tell you this
brilliant.
thing was super cool, like I said, it is a game changer and a time saver. So I basically come in and hit create AI clips. It'll ask me for the YouTube video or Dropbox or anything
Yeah,
like that if I use that, but I just take it straight from the YouTube link again, which is why I upload things to YouTube first, and then from there, I'll just go to one that's already created, uh, ask it to create AI clips, and it then creates all of these clips for me.
yeah,
So you'll see them pop up here on the screen in just a sec. It even gives them a title and scores them.
yeah, yeah,
So now we're looking at, again, 12 different shorts that were created just from that one YouTube link.
yeah,
And I think that is, again, just really, really cool. So, I can, have him on there in the video. Of course, the video would probably be a lot smoother once we're,
yeah.
if someone's
I'm
looking at it in a different
I'm
format or
quite
whatever, but you can
concerned.
see it.
Why are there those
Mhm.
black bars on top and below? Is
Gotcha. So great
that's how the
question.
video looks like originally?
So up here is the aspect ratio.
Yeah.
So this is that 9:16 portrait. If I change it to the landscape ratio, instead of just seeing him on the screen in that format, you'll see the both of us.
I see where they got this stuff from. The original video has this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't
Side by
know
side.
why Zoom does that stuff like that, where it puts
Yeah,
these
yes,
black
it puts
bars
us
at the bottom and at the top.
at the bottom and the top. It does. It does. Well, let's see. So there's a portrait split where I think it'll put them on the top and the bottom, or put us on the top and the
Okay.
bottom, I should say. So
Okay.
there's one way, and then the last one I don't think I'd use yet, but I'll just kind of look at it here is the square. So what I've found is that this one, again, unless it's a very specific thing that I'm wanting to capture, I usually won't use, just because, again, it cuts off half it gives portion of the other person's screen, but not the entire thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a pretty cool tool, like I said, from that regard. And then that's another part of it. Let's say if I wanted to, where's that other piece? Generate the written content.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
these are all
see.
you see AI clips.
Yeah, the platform is pretty robust. I think everything that is left for you now is for you to like start creating the episodes and putting it on the platform, and then it will pop up stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Yeah. So again,
transcript and yeah, show notes. So you can basically get show
transcript,
notes, descriptions, and
timestamps.
everything. That's brilliant.
Yeah, ad copies, threads, email headlines, chapter summaries. So again, it's It's a really powerful tool, and to your point about saving time, it makes sense to have somebody well trained on this so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah,
can really understand how to utilize it
yeah,
and what to look for and listen for, and to be able to generate that content for me in a massive way.
yeah.
And
I
so the
mean,
YouTube channel,
yeah, if you get a if you get a VA from maybe the Philippines, I don't know, from other countries
yep,
like that speaks English, understands the stuff. Yeah, they can really do that stuff because the AI has done the most of the work. They just have to do the copy and the pasting, look at it, fine tune it, and and then you get to like show them, oh, 72, 75
exactly,
subscribers, 65 videos.
exactly.
Okay, scroll down a bit.
Yep. So my YouTube channel
Where are
I've
the
had
thumb?
for a
Okay,
while.
what happened to the thumbnails of this last six?
Ask that question one more time.
Why there are no thumbnails for the last six videos? The most
You know
recent
what?
six videos.
So that's a portion. I guess that's a plus and a minus. And here again, full transparency. I literally came to QSO and where's that gentleman? See all projects. So what you see on my YouTube channel is a result of these AI clips here. So again, in order to just begin getting stuff out, I literally just pick the clip, I hit share, and then once I hit share, it takes me to all of the social medias that I've already linked.
This
So I've
platform is
got,
brilliant.
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, right? I linked everything to it. And I actually didn't upload a thumbnail for it. So the
Okay.
reason there's no thumbnail is because I didn't upload a
Okay, of
thumbnail,
course you can
admittedly.
update that later on. It's not,
Exactly.
yeah, it's not a big deal. Wow.
But
So
um but yeah,
currently in your episode there are like kind of like lead magnets or call to action for people to subscribe to your newsletter or your email list.
you know what? So inside of, let's see, I'll just open one of them up. Inside of the uh let's see here, right? Transcript. Wait, let me stop the video itself. But inside of, oh, pause. There we go. Inside the video description, uh, tags, it's really about them going to the full episode. So the only thing that I have in there is, again, this is a short for those that might just be listening to this. In the short, it gives them the full episode to go and view the full episode, and then also the link to my link tree so that they can get more information about how to connect with me as the publisher. It takes them to the audio version of my podcast on Buzzsprout. So that's where they can go and listen to everything else as well as support the
Yeah,
show. But on Linktree, I use that to, again, just give all those other ways to connect. So the YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, my personal
yeah,
website, Calendly, all that stuff. I just create a bunch of links there. And again, for me, it's a learning process. So, again,
yeah,
as I'm going through this and having you even take a look at it, by all means, if there's like an audit that you're able
yeah,
to do to really help grow this thing, I am
yeah.
all for it. You
Okay,
see, I've got a
okay.
couple of plugins like Video
Yeah.
IQ or
VIQ,
vidIQ.
yeah.
I'm still, yeah, I've got a subscription to that for the year, and I'm
Yeah.
learning what all these things mean in order to help boost the engagement on my YouTube channel. So right now,
Yeah.
like we looked at on that first
Okay.
platform, really
Okay.
these last few videos have been getting more views, a couple hundred on this one, couple hundred on the one right after that. But
Yeah.
the previous ones hadn't had a whole bunch of views, right? And I
Yeah.
know that thumbnails are a
The
part of
things,
that.
the things that, okay, the thumbnail is contributing. Your title, you're getting the, like, you're actually spending effort and time on using really good titles that actually communicate what the video is about. But one of the things I noticed is that the video itself there's a way it looks as if it's not made for the platform, like those black bars and all those things, right?
Mhm.
Like I know that it's something it has to do with a setting in Zoom, but I'm not conversant with Zoom, so I cannot really tell you what you need to like change. But the
Okay.
video you get, I could show you an example of a video on YouTube that has two persons, but it doesn't have this black bar.
Yeah, by all means, because all
Yeah.
of them. So even the ones behind the thumbnails, they have that
Okay.
black bar top and bottom. Just because, again, that's how it's recorded on Zoom. But if
Yeah.
that can,
If
if
I
we
didn't
can
mean
get
I
rid of
use
that,
Zoom now, I would have been able to tell you what to touch in order to like make the video have be synchronized and all that. But I don't use Zoom, and I really cannot say what you need to like, you know, touch. But like I would want the thing. If we go, for example, now there's this episode. If we go to let's go to Lenny's, search for Lenny's podcast, and I want us to just see an episode
I
from
said,
the
what's their name?
Lenny's podcast, Lenny.
Lenny's podcast.
Yeah, podcast. Yeah, podcast. And of course, the guy is a very big podcaster, but yeah. So you click on his head.
Oh, click on his head there.
Yeah, that's
all right. Let's
just
see what's
scroll
going
to the middle of the content. I don't know if this episode is the one that is in person or through via online. Okay.
Like I'm gonna call my internet provider because for this gig speed, it should be going a lot faster than that.
what this stuff is doing, and this is something I'm trying to implement. So it is not like I'm not giving advice. I'm just like sharing some of the things I'm trying to implement on my own end too. You notice that the beginning of the podcast, right? Of course, that's on that process and straight. But right now we're just trying to get started. But the beginning of the podcast has kind of like is convincing you to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, they hook you right in the first few seconds.
Selling the podcast for you. You see that once if you go to like 10 minutes into the podcast, and you'll be asking yourself, what did they do? It's actually Zoom and internet like us. There's nothing special. Just go like middle into the hair. And what he does is that, because I don't use Zoom, but on Riverside, the software I use, there's a setting where once you're done with the video, you can select it such that it will cut out to the active speaker, right? So you see now that there are no black bars.
Right.
This is actually, this guy is probably in his bedroom. I don't know where he is, but
right.
These other guys are in that place, and they are both doing internet call, but it looks as if they are actually in the same place. See how seamless, how clean, and everything is. That's because of there are no black bars, none of those things. Now, of course, there's nothing special. It's in Riverside. If you just click one button, everything will adjust itself by who is speaking, and then if somebody's reacting, and it will just be adjusting itself automatically by itself. Right now, I don't use Zoom, so I cannot really tell you what to touch or do in Zoom. It's Riverside I use. Probably you can check on the internet how to like do automatic stuff, and you find it out. So you see now it's normal podcast, normal conversation, normal everything. For the first like 30 to 40 seconds was trying to convince and like tell you what you would get from the episode. Of course, they did all those sound effects, but you don't have to like do the sound effects. For me, what I want to just do is, I know it will take me some time, but I'm just going to try the experiment. If it works, I will keep on doing it. If it doesn't work, I will just be putting the episode like that. I'm going to, after the end of the episode, of course, you can have AI do it for you too. I would pull in kind of like a hook and say, have you ever wondered about how to start your podcast episode? Like for this episode now, today I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Paul Howard Flowers, and he has a podcast that is just 3 weeks old. Like I will frame it in a way that is really compelling and say he started the podcast and he's still figuring it out, yet he has released 11 episodes. His story is quite inspiring, and I know that you would learn a lot from this episode. Now, I have given them what they would get from I'm more like selling. You know how you do sales to someone and you're like, oh, this is what you get. Because most people, a podcast is like 1 hour. It's long. So people really need to know if they should spend their time.
If it's worth it.
Yeah, if it's worth it. Yeah. So you want to like reassure them that, dude, this stuff is actually worth it. You get, and then they can then start listening and listening to the many episodes. So that's that. But those black bars, and like there's a way it looks. It doesn't look. It looks. You see how this episode and this video is just seamless. There's no full production. Any of those things.
Full.
It's actually internet recording. Like maybe when I do this when I publish our video, I'll send you the link. You see what it looks like so that you understand how everything looks in the hand. Maybe that way it will make sense, because right now I know that both of us we are not doing any full production or anything. We're just doing from our laptop. Yeah. So that's it.
That was actually really good to see that. And I'll take a look at this podcast and look back some episodes. Ironically enough, I was doing research on Riverside, and the only reason that I didn't go with it, I'll say yet, is that I literally watch videos from Riverside days before I started the podcast, and it's because I didn't want to have any additional added expense. I already had a Zoom account that I was paying for, And I guess, okay, that's part of my expenditures also. So I really need to start tracking those dollars spent because I've already had a paid Zoom account for my business. So I didn't consider that as a podcast expense because I was using it for my business. So the paid Zoom account allows for, of course, those longer meetings. And it was just a really quick way to get started. I looked at Riverside, and I've also looked at a couple of other platforms that can host as opposed to Buzzsprout. So essentially, this is my phase one, right?
Okay.
So for this first season or two, get to use Zoom, get to use Buzzsprout, and as I get deeper in the game, because it is for all intents and purposes a game. As I get deeper into the game, I'll better have an understanding of how I can use softwares and tools, tips, tactics, techniques, again, all that to create a better experience for the listeners and viewers.
Yeah, so far I've been using Riverside. Of course, I'm not an ambassador of Riverside, but so far I've been using Riverside. None of my guests has actually complained that they've had the issue, like kind of like joining me on the podcast.
Yeah,
I would say
no,
that's
it's been
a win.
seamless.
Of course, on my own end, I'm struggling, but as far as my guests are having a great time, I'm okay with the software, right? And then it depends on how well you produce, because there are so many factors that come into choosing a software. It depends on how many. I know that for everybody, they have the number at which the number there's okay. The question I would ask is, what number of episode would you need to produce with the software to make sure that you've got your money worth? Okay, let's say the amount is dollars per month for Riverside.
That actually, I'll say, depends on a few other factors. So if the content is monetizing itself, once I get to a point where, between the podcast advertisements, maybe through Buzzsprout, and the payments from Podmatch and the YouTube monetization, hit that 1,000 subscribers, if it's all paying for itself, then I have zero issue acquiring it because right now, essentially, though it is considered an investment, if there's a way that it works currently that is getting the desired result, so to speak, I hadn't thought to change it.
Yeah, yeah,
And with that, it makes sense. Again, and I'll just talk to folks that might just be brand new getting started. You may not have unlimited funds and all that good stuff. So by using what you have in order to again get started, not letting perfection being the enemy of progress, it removes that barrier to entry for a person to at least get started, right? But now it definitely, as it grows, and I continue to do like I'm doing with season one, and actually this was really helpful because I didn't even think to go to other people's podcasts on YouTube to look at how it
yeah,
looked,
yeah,
right? So just seeing us on the screen here, there's the little black bar at the top, black bar at the
yeah.
bottom. But of course, like you said, once you actually produce it, it won't show up like that. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
know
please,
there's
by all
something you
means.
need to touch. It's not like Zoom has an issue. I don't know, I can't speak for Zoom, but I know there are other
Right,
people
right.
who use Zoom that they don't have that problem. It's just there's something you need to touch, right? Once you figure it out, you look as if it will not be an extra process. So yeah, probably you have to check how to remove black bars and stuff like that, and you find it.
Yeah, I put it in my search bars so that I can have that ready to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah. The thumbnail, the title is on point. You're doing the show notes and all that. For the link tree, of course, for me, I'm just going to speak as a consumer and someone who listens to content. I don't really, on very rare occasions, do I actually go and check people's link tree and say, okay, what's this guy about? What's this stuff about? Usually, what makes me click on links on YouTube is okay. They said that they have probably a software or two. They recommended an affiliate link, and I'm like, I want to go and check this stuff out. Or they gave me a next step to take after the episode, right? Depending on where it makes sense. I'll give an example after this episode and everything. I'm like, oh, if you need kind of like let's say I create a template or a checklist to help you select the best software to use. Let's say I'm just thinking of that stuff. A very simple checklist that
Right.
you can walk through ChatGPT, being the fact that you have the experience and stuff, and you just spend about 20 to 30 minutes to give you that checklist. And now I know it will help a lot of persons to actually pick software, because people are like, "Oh, what do I use? Do I use Riverside? Do I use Zoom? Do I use all this stuff?" Now I put that checklist, and I'm like, if you left them, you can get that checklist. It's absolutely free. Just click on the link and you can get that. Now, those are now people, they would have a reason to click the link and go check out, and then they'll join the
Exactly.
email list. And of course, once they join the email list, you can then communicate with them. You can then tell them about your podcast episode. You can then tell them about your course, your offers, so many other things. And you can then do whatever you want to do. And then you can sell what you want to sell. And basically you can continue the discussion after the episode on YouTube. And yeah,
Absolutely. No, you're
that's it.
spot on. Spot on being able to have that call to
Yeah.
action and generate the interest and also again capture that
Yeah.
client or potential client's information as a lead via email by giving them something of value first. And again, you are spot on, my man. I'm taking notes from you at this point.
Yeah. I'm working on this channel. Just I'm gathering the episodes, right, and then I'll release. I think I'm releasing May 10th. Yeah. Well, so I'm working on templates, Canva templates for thumbnails. Right. You see I know notice you that channel I recommended to you. You saw the thumbnail design where on
Right.
point the text is really bold and like it's really big. Right. You don't have to like squint your eyes to see what's written, what it's about. Of course, in Canva, you can change the color, the font type, and all those things with a click of a button. So I'm working on a couple of
Right.
templates. Once the template is done, I would send you the link so you can like use it if you're interested.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely open to it.
yeah. Well, 1 hour is gone. Wow, it's
Time
amazing.
flies when you're having fun. This has been great.
Yeah. 1 hour. Well, wow, it's like your story is really inspiring. You started a podcast 3 weeks and now you've gotten over 500 downloads. A lot of things are coming in place. And I just know that the sweet thing about building and why you're working on the thing is that you get to learn a lot and it removes a lot of procrastination because now you have stuff that you need to do. I'll give an example. For if you're building now you have to like create a lead magnet. Like now you have to create an offer. Now you have to get them to train emails. And before you know it, you realize that everything has been built over time. Because recently, one of the things I do to like inspire myself some of the times is all these big brands and big websites, all these big creators that have everything all figured out, all the funnels and everything. Sometimes I just go to Wayback Machine, put in their website, and I look at their website 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and some of the things I'm seeing there, and I have my MVP, my first product is way better than their product 10 times. And yeah, because YouTube was way uglier than what it is now. Some of these other websites that we love today, they were like terrible. Like you would look at them and you're like, I can't believe somebody was actually visiting this website back then. Like this stuff looks really terrible. But they started and they were improving and improving and improving. And YouTube, they are still improving, they are still iterating, they're still testing out stuff, right? And yeah, that's the whole idea. Just start and you improve and you improve and improve. And over time, you have it all figured
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
I love that. I'm actually
Thank you
going to
so
do
much.
that and go and get
Yeah.
that hope.
Yeah. I think if you focus on repurposing and like actually repurposing, right? Repurposing and pre-purposing the content, like the views will come because now your case is not you don't have content. It's just like you need to spend time actually like placing the clips, putting stuff because there's content. Like you've had conversation with these guests already, and there's so many so many clips, so many quotes, so many other things that you could post on social media for like the next 1 month, the next 2 months, and actually be super active and still be pumping out high quality content, right? Because you've done this podcast episode. Like this podcast now, I know that I can get the number of content I can get from this episode just from the fact that we had this conversation is super, like it's really, really, really like a
Super high.
lot. And
Yeah,
yeah,
30, 40, 50 plus
yeah,
at least.
quotes, a blog post, newsletter, so many things. Like so, yeah, that for me is because I'm trying to look for ways that old podcast episodes will not just die. Because some of these episodes we are in the industry of evergreen content, right? We are not entertainment news stuff that once it's 1 week
Exactly.
it's done, right? I need to like find a way to like get them, resurface them so that every episode I've ever recorded gets to work for me again and again and again and again, right? It's not just
I like
boom,
that.
now it's gone. Yeah. Wow,
That's
it's
a really good
yeah.
point.
I would
And
love to
I'll
like
actually, yeah.
have you back on the podcast maybe 3 months, 6 months from now, and then by then you would have
Oh
made a lot
man.
of progress, and then the conversation we'll be having will be way 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 different, and then we can just like brainstorm and kind of like bounce ideas off each
Okay.
other.
Hey, game on. Game on. 3 months from now, man. Let's do it. I'll
Yeah.
even go inside of 3 months. I think I'll be on season 5 by then.
Wow.
Something like
That
that.
would be fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much for coming to my podcast, and
Absolutely.
thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for taking the step. And it's 3 weeks now. Probably by next week it will be 1 month. Before you know, 2 months. Before you know, we're doing 6 months. Before you know, we're doing 1 year. And then you start getting messages that thank you so much for that podcast. It inspired me. I really love that. And that's why we do what we do. Of course, we want to make money too, but that's why we do what we do. I want to solve
Absolutely make a
problems
difference.
and hopefully get paid for it.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Well, I appreciate you, my man. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Thank you
much, and
so
thank
much.
your listeners for tuning
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. That's true. Because I feel like we're having a Zoom catch up. I actually forgot that I was recording a podcast episode. Where can listeners learn more about you and what you do, sir?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No worries. Quickest way, www.paul.health. It'll take you to my site, which is, again, very similar to the link tree, but it has those other areas about me, the reviews, the ways you can listen to the podcast, etc. So it also even you can drop me a line, text, email, etc. You can get that right through the site, www.paul.health. Also, again, on all social medias, my handle is exactly the same. It's my name. That's Paul H. Flowers Jr. PaulHFlowers Jr. Google it. You'll see me everywhere.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And yeah, I'm rooting for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. This has been impactful and powerful. And again, I've got some notes now of things that I can better use to hone and shape in my show as we grow.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I am Wisdom Okonkwo, and I hope this conversation sparked new ideas and gave you a deeper look into the heart of podcasting. If you've loved this episode, consider supporting the show by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/wisdomhq. Every bit helps keep the stories going. And hey, don't forget to follow, rate, and share this podcast with another podcaster or creator who would find it helpful. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.